My name is Jackie White,
Hi, I'm Craig Dowdy,
and my youngest child was diagnosed with cancer.
and my son was diagnosed with leukemia.
I got the phone call from the pediatrician, who I had brought my son to at least 3 times. Very concerned. On the first visit, I did say, as a mother, I see lymphoma.
Well, what happened is I was working, and basically I got a call from Tim's mom saying that they were at the doctor's office. They think there might be something going on. They wanted to take him to get a chest x-ray.
And she told me she was confident he was not even ill enough to have mono. So when I got the call, that I wasn't surprised. I think Timmy's father and myself both knew something was very wrong. And when she said, I know that this is what you were worried about, they found a large tumor in Timothy's chest, and they were on their way to Mass General Pediatric Oncology. I fell on the floor to think that my 7-year-old had cancer. It was devastating.
As soon as the doctor turned the corner and coming back to give us the results, you knew right then and there something was up, and they needed to do some biopsies. But unfortunately, the mass was so big, they were afraid to put him under because they were afraid that his lungs would collapse and things like that might happen. So that was getting a little bit, like I said, a little bit scary when they're telling you that they can't put him under because they're afraid his lungs are going to collapse because he's got such a mass.
I knew my son was gonna die.
Tim's mom, obviously, I think she was a little bit more shaken up about it.
Shocking doesn't cover it. Once I got to Mass General that day, I was told, we can make this go away. We can make him better. We can't tell all parents of kids with cancer that we can make them better, but I still, in my gut, I believed he was gonna die.
One of your children are at risk, and you're scared for them. There are probably a million times I said, God, give it to me, let me go through it, because I can handle it. I know that I would be able to deal with it and deal with the being sick and everything, and it was just something that I know that I had the strength to do. But whereas he was so young, I really felt very vulnerable. My father had just passed away from lung cancer. What was it? Just a year or two before. So, and that took him very quickly. So it's like I said, I was feeling a lot of stuff inside. Again, you want to take care of your kids. Like I said, I was trying to make sure that nobody knew that I was upset or I was scared. Because again, I had to take care of the rest of my kids too. So, and that was a big part of what you have to do. You have to be strong for everybody else.
I don't think I ever thought it would ever feel normal again after Tim was diagnosed. People that I met, nurses, Karen, our favorite, once he's on maintenance, everything will be fine. He can go back to school. He can play with other kids. He won't get infections as much. And that's almost when it happened. It was about 14 to 16 months after treatment started. But he still had a good 24 months left. So it's still scary. I did have to stop working. I gave up an awful lot of my time with my other 2 children because Tim's the one who needed it right then. And that felt awful. A part of you felt like you were turning your back on others. But there was only one decision to be made. You don't want to think of them as sacrifices because you would do anything to save your child's life.
The bills that we were getting at the time were crazy. It started out actually not that much, but they just kept coming and coming and coming and coming. It was $200 here, $400 there, $80 here. And it ended up being a very large amount of money. A lot of days I was robbing Peter to pay Paul because, like I said, or I'm sitting there staring at a mountain of medical bills that I don't have enough money to pay for. I mean, of course, there was other sacrifices that we would have to make, especially when Tim had some of his treatments. We were spending nights in the hospital, and but somebody's got to be with him, hanging out. I don't think it's a sacrifice. I think it's just something you had to do. I mean, if it was any one of my kids, I would have done the same thing for. I don't consider anything a sacrifice.
We did our Make-A-Wish trip to Disney in April of 2011. While we were there, we were having a great time, and we lapsed on hand sanitizer and just being up on what every cancer family should do. We came back on Wednesday, and everyone went to school and went to work on Thursday. And on Friday, Timmy got really sick. His temp went up to about 107, close to. So we called clinic. It's very scary. And we ended up having to go in inpatient. Everything looked good, and the doctor let us go the next day because we had tickets to the Red Sox game in a luxury box, and we left. And Tim got sick again, and we left. And we came home at about 4 o'clock in the morning. He couldn't breathe. The coughing, couldn't catch his breath, and we rushed into Mass General, and he had pneumonia and whooping cough. Also, these kids are treated with steroids, and you've heard the term roid rage, and we had to bring Timothy into Mass General for a suicide attempt at 7 years old because of steroids and being so angry at the world with a knife on my kitchen floor, and that was very upsetting. Tim's last day of treatment was IV chemo, was November 15th, 2012. I thought it was a bit of a celebration, so I got Tim and his siblings out of school early, just pizza, ice cream, and his grandparents decided that they would come along. And his grandfather collapsed in clinic, unconscious, on the floor, my father. And one of the things I will remember most about that was Tim's primary nurse, Karen, who was amazing, got my father into a wheelchair, and one of the oncologists said, get him down to the ER now. And we get down to the ER, my mother, my father, myself, and my father told me, get up there and be with Tim. It's his last treatment. And I said, well, no, I can be here with you. And when I went up several hours later, the clinic staff had entertained all three of my children and had waited to give him his last IV chemo until I was there to see it. So it was heartwarming. The clinic staff at Mass General, PD Hemonk, have become basically a second family. I remember just 2 months ago, I was in Target, and my daughter and I were there, and we saw the chief of pediatric oncology, and he came over and gave us each a hug and a kiss. They're a second family. They saved my son's life. They're amazing. I can't say enough.
It's a very personal battle you go through when it's your child, especially your youngest child too. They're the ones that you're thinking that has the longest to live, not the shortest. But again, he's pretty tough that way.